The cargo ship Meridian moved slowly through the dark space near the Epsilon belt. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge and looked at the main screen. His fingers tapped on the control panel as he checked their path to the mining colonies on Kepler 442b. The ship was old but strong. It had carried goods across space for more than 20 years. Jake was tired. They had been flying for 3 days straight without any problems. That should have been his first warning. In space, quiet times never lasted long. Lieutenant Sophie Grant sat at her station near the front of the bridge. She watched the scanner screens carefully. Her job was to watch for other ships and any danger that might come their way. She was young but very good at her work. Suddenly, Sophie sat up straight. Her hands moved fast across her controls. The screens in front of her showed something new. Something bad. "Captain, I see multiple contacts," Sophie said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the worry in it. "They just appeared behind us. They came out of warp speed right on our tail." Jake turned around fast. "How many ships?" Sophie checked her screens again. 6 ships. The computer says they match Kralthan raider vessels. Jake felt his stomach drop. The Kralthan Empire was bad news. For the past 3 years, they had been attacking human ships and colonies. They were a race of reptile-like warriors who thought younger species were just targets to rob and kill. Their ships were fast and carried heavy weapons. Their crews enjoyed fighting and believed that showing mercy made you weak. The Meridian was just a cargo ship. It had some basic defense guns, but nothing that could fight 6 warships. Against that many raiders, they would be destroyed in less than 10 minutes. Jake made a quick choice. "Open a channel to them," he said. The main screen changed. Now it showed the face of a Kralthan commander. He had red scales that covered his face and neck. White scars ran across his scales. Each scar was a mark from old battles. His eyes were yellow and cold. When he looked at Jake, it felt like being watched by a hungry snake. "Human ship," the Kralthan commander said. A translator made his words sound like English, but they were harsh and sharp. "You will give us your cargo and let us board your ship. If you resist, you will die." Jake looked straight at the alien commander. He tried to keep his voice steady. "This is a civilian transport ship. We are protected by the United Earth Coalition. If you attack us, it will be an act of war." The Kralthan commander laughed. It was a terrible sound, like rocks scraping together. "Your coalition is very far away, human. There is no one here to save you. Turn off your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you refuse, we will tear your ship into pieces with you inside." Sophie leaned closer to Jake. She spoke quietly so only he could hear. "Captain, their weapons are charging up. They are getting ready to fire." Jake's hand moved to a small panel on his control station. There was a red button there. Most civilian captains did not even know this button existed. The Earth government had put it there in secret after the first Kralthan attack started. Only a few cargo ships had this special equipment. Deep inside the Meridian, hidden in the engineering section, was something special. It was called a quantum beacon. It was a piece of military technology that could send a signal faster than light itself. Much faster. "Do it," Sophie whispered. She knew what that button was for. She had seen it during their safety training. Jake pressed the button. Down in the engineering section, the beacon came alive. It sent out a burst of special particles that traveled through space in a way that normal physics could not explain. The signal would reach its target right away. No delay. No waiting. On the screen, the Kralthan commander's eyes got narrow. He had seen Jake press something. "What did you just do, human?" he demanded. Jake smiled, but there was no humor in it. "I called for help." The commander made a sound like a hiss. "You fool. There is no help close enough to reach you in time. You have only minutes left to live." Jake kept smiling. Who said anything about them being close? The Kralthan commander did not understand, but he was angry. He cut off the communication. His voice came through all the channels as he spoke to his fleet. "All ships, open fire! Destroy that cargo ship!" Bright energy bolts shot through space toward the Meridian. Jake held onto his control station as the ship shook hard. The impacts felt like a giant hammer hitting them again and again. Warning alarms started screaming all over the bridge. Red lights flashed everywhere. "Shields are down to 40%, Sophie shouted over the noise. "We have hull breaches on decks 3 and 5. The ship is taking heavy damage." Jake watched the tactical display screen. It showed the 6 raider ships moving around them in a circle, like sharks hunting wounded prey. They were getting ready to fire again. The Meridian's small defense guns shot back at them, but the guns were too weak. They might as well have been throwing rocks at tanks. Shields at 20%. Captain, we cannot take another hit like that. Sophie's voice was getting desperate now. Jake kept his eyes on the main screen. His crew needed him to stay calm. Hold on. Just hold on a little longer. The Kralthan ships moved into their final attack positions. Their weapons started to glow as they charged up for the killing shot. In a few seconds, the Meridian would be blown apart. Everyone on board would die. Then something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to rip open right in front of them. A huge tear appeared in the empty space between the Meridian and the Kralthan fleet. It glowed with bright blue and white energy that hurt to look at. The tear grew bigger and bigger every second. It was like watching a door open between two different parts of the universe. Power poured out of it in waves that made the smaller ships rock back and forth. Sophie's hands flew across her controls. Her eyes were wide as she read the numbers. Captain, I'm reading massive spatial distortions. That thing, whatever it is making more energy than a small star. Through the glowing tear in space, a shape started to come through. It was dark. It was enormous. And it was covered with weapons. Hundreds and hundreds of weapons. Jake's smile got bigger. Right on time. The battleship Thunderhawk burst through the quantum gateway like a god of war coming to pass judgment. The ship was 2 kilometers long. It made the Meridian look like a tiny toy. It made the Kralthan raiders look like insects. The force of its arrival sent shock waves through space that pushed all the smaller ships away like leaves in a storm. On the Kralthan flagship, the commander stared at the screen. His mouth hung open. He could not believe what he was seeing. Impossible. The humans were too far away. They could not get here this fast. A new voice came over all the communication channels. It was deep and calm and full of authority. Kralthan vessels, this is Commander Alan Drake of the United Earth Coalition battleship Thunderhawk. You have attacked a civilian transport ship under our protection. Power down your weapons now and prepare to be boarded. If you refuse, you will be destroyed. The Kralthan commander's face twisted with rage. He could not accept this. His pride would not let him back down. We outnumber them. All ships, attack pattern Gamma. Focus all your fire on that battleship. The 6 Kralthan raiders broke their circle formation and flew straight at the Thunderhawk. All their weapons fired at once. Energy bolts and missiles streaked across the dark space. It looked like enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but none of it reached the target. The Thunderhawk's defense systems turned on. Hundreds of laser guns created a wall of light so thick you could not see through it. Every missile exploded far away from the battleship's hull. Every energy bolt hit shields so strong they could take the power of a dozen suns. The Kralthan attack did nothing. It was like children throwing pebbles at a mountain. Inside the Thunderhawk, Commander Drake sat in his command chair. His voice was still calm. Target their engines. I want them alive to face trial for what they have done. The battleship's main weapons came online. 40 railgun turrets moved with perfect precision. Each gun could shoot a tungsten slug so fast it was almost as fast as light itself. The targeting computers locked onto each raider ship. They calculated distance, speed, and the exact moment to fire. Firing now, someone said. The sound that came through the communication channels was like thunder rolling across the sky. But this thunder brought death. The first Kralthan raider ship died in just seconds. A railgun slug hit its engine section with so much force that the entire back half of the ship simply turned into vapor. The front half tumbled away through space, spinning and trailing air and debris behind it like the tail of a dying comet. The second raider tried to run away. Its pilot threw the ship into a wild spinning pattern, trying to dodge the incoming fire. But it did not matter at all. The Thunderhawk's targeting computers could track a grain of sand in a hurricane. 3 railgun rounds hit the raider one after another. The ship was torn into pieces like paper being ripped apart by giant hands. On the bridge of the Meridian, Jake and Sophie watched everything happen. They had heard stories about human military ships before. People talked about how powerful they were. But seeing one in action was completely different. It was like watching a force of nature. They are not even moving, Sophie said quietly. Her voice was full of wonder. The Thunderhawk is just sitting there in space. Jake nodded slowly. They do not need to move. Those Kralthan ships are using technology that is centuries behind ours. This is not a battle. This is like swatting bugs. Inside the Kralthan flagship, panic had replaced all the earlier confidence. The commander's crew members shouted warnings in their harsh language. They watched their companion ships die on their screens. Fear filled every corner of the bridge. Evasive maneuvers. The commander roared at his pilot. "Get us away from here, now!" The 4 remaining raider ships scattered in different directions. Each one tried to escape. Each captain hoped that someone else would be the next target. The Thunderhawk's response was calm and methodical. There was no rush, no panic, just cold efficiency. "Targets are spreading out," Commander Drake noted from his command chair. His tone was casual, like he was commenting on the weather. "Lieutenant Carter, deploy the combat drones." "Yes, sir." "Deploying drones now," Carter replied. Large doors along the sides of the Thunderhawk slid open. Inside were rows of sleek angular craft. They were smaller than fighters but moved with deadly grace. The drones launched in perfect formation. Their engines left trails of blue plasma behind them as they accelerated to speeds the Kralthan ships could never hope to reach. The drones were completely automatic. Artificial intelligence guided them, processing tactical situations faster than any living mind could. They moved like a pack of hunting animals, each one choosing a target and pursuing it with relentless focus. The 3rd Kralthan raider died while trying to jump to warp speed. One of the drones matched its acceleration perfectly. It positioned itself directly in front of the raider's nose and set off its fusion warhead. The explosion was so bright it lit up the entire area of space. When the light faded, nothing remained of the raider except expanding gas and tiny bits of metal. The 4th raider got the farthest away. It almost reached the edge of the asteroid belt where they could hide, but 3 drones caught up to it anyway. This time they did not use warheads. Instead, they attached themselves to the raider's hull like mechanical leeches. Then they used cutting lasers to burn through the armor. They took apart the ship's systems piece by piece until it was just a dead hulk floating in space. The 5th Raider's captain tried something desperate. He turned his ship around completely and flew straight at the Thunderhawk. Maybe he hoped to ram into it. Maybe he planned to blow up his own ship close enough to cause some damage. Whatever his plan was, it did not work. The Thunderhawk's point defense systems tracked the raider every meter of the way. The guns followed its path with perfect accuracy. When the raider crossed an invisible line in space, the defense guns opened fire. The raider was ripped apart so fast that it looked like it just stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment it was a cloud of glowing fragments. That left only the flagship. The Kralthan commander stood frozen on his bridge. He stared at the tactical display screen. 5 icons had shown his fleet just minutes ago. Now they were all gone, replaced by symbols showing debris fields. The entire fight had lasted less than 3 minutes. His communications officer looked up at him. The scales on his face had turned pale with fear. "Commander, the human battleship is sending us a message." The commander wanted to fight. His pride told him to die in battle rather than surrender, but his survival instinct was stronger. He had crew members who trusted him, warriors who followed his orders. He could not let them all die for nothing. "Put them through," the commander said quietly. Commander Drake's face appeared on the main screen. He was human, probably in his middle years. His hair was turning gray, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He had the calm look of someone who had seen far worse things than this. "Kralthan Commander," Drake said in an even tone. "You attacked a civilian ship. You ignored our warnings. You chose violence. 5 of your ships are gone now. Their crews are all dead. That is on you. Those deaths are your responsibility." The Kralthan commander's jaw moved, but no sound came out at first. Finally, he found his voice. "How did you do this? How did you get here so fast? We were days away from any human military base." Drake smiled just a little. "You thought you knew the limits of human technology. You were wrong. The quantum gateway lets us project our forces anywhere in this sector within minutes. There is nowhere in this region of space where you can attack our people without facing immediate consequences." The commander's scales turned even paler.
"You can travel anywhere instantly?"
"That should be impossible. No species in the galaxy has that kind of capability." "No species except us," Drake corrected him. "Now power down all your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be held for trial under coalition law. If you resist, you will join your companions in death." The Kralthan commander looked around his bridge. His crew members stared back at him. They were waiting for orders. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. But all of them trusted him to make the right choice. He thought about the 5 ships that had been destroyed in minutes. He thought about his mate back home, his offspring. They would never see him again if he chose to fight now. "Stand down," he said quietly. Power down all weapon systems. Do it now. His crew hesitated for just a moment. Then they followed his orders. Hands moved across control panels. Weapons powered down one by one. On the Thunderhawk's tactical display, the flagship's weapon signatures went dark and disappeared. Smart choice, Drake said with a nod. Then he spoke to someone else. Captain Morrison, are you and your crew safe? Jake's voice came through the communication channel. We are fine, Commander. Thank you for the help. We really needed it. Just doing our job, Captain. A repair ship will reach you in about an hour to fix your hull damage. We will escort you to the nearest station once you're ready to move again. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Drake turned his attention back to the Kralthan commander. My boarding teams are on their way to your ship right now. Do not do anything foolish. The communication channel closed. The Kralthan commander sank down into his command chair. His scales had lost their bright color. They looked dull now, the color of defeat. Around him, his bridge crew moved slowly like people in a bad dream. They were all trying to process what had just happened to them. One of the younger crew members spoke up. He was barely into his second decade of life. Commander, I do not understand this. We are Kralthan. We are supposed to be the strongest warriors in the galaxy. How can the humans be so much more powerful than us? The commander was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded hollow and tired. Because we have spent the last 1,000 years conquering species that were weaker than us. We forgot what it feels like to face someone who is stronger. The humans have not forgotten. They have had to fight for everything they have. That fighting has made them into something we are not ready to deal with. He pointed at the view screen where the massive human battleship still hung in space like a dark mountain. Look at that ship. Really look at it carefully. That is not just a warship. That is a message. It says we can reach you anywhere and at any time, and when we arrive you will not be able to stop us. That is the kind of message you send when you are no longer just another species trying to survive. The young warrior stared at the human battleship. Slowly he began to understand. The Kralthan Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had thought that because humanity was young, they would be weak and easy to defeat. They had been very, very wrong about that. 3 days after what happened in the Epsilon Belt, High Commander Vex Thor stood before the Kralthan War Council. The chamber was very old. It had been carved from black volcanic rock many centuries ago. Strange, glowing fungi lit the room with a sick green color that made everything look unnatural. 12 council members sat in a half-circle. Their scales showed that they were the most honored warriors in the entire empire. Vexathor's report about the defeat had not been well received at all. 6 ships, Council Elder Rathtak said. His voice was full of contempt and disbelief. You are telling us that 6 of our raider vessels were destroyed by just one human ship? Vex Thor kept his voice steady and professional. Yes, Council Elder. The human battleship arrived through something they call a quantum gateway. It is a form of travel that happens instantly. Our intelligence officers had no information about this capability before now. Another council member made a hissing sound of anger. Those are just excuses. The humans are a young species. They should be prey for us to hunt, not predators that hunt us. Vex Thor kept his composure even though he wanted to argue more strongly. With respect, Counselor, that way of thinking is dangerously outdated. The humans have proven to be far more capable than we thought they would be. Their technology, their battle tactics, and their determination all exceed what we predicted. Rathtak leaned forward in his seat. Then what do you suggest we do, High Commander? We should stop all attacks against human ships immediately. We should seek diplomatic channels to talk with them. They have shown they are not interested in conquering other species, but they will defend their people with overwhelming force. If we continue to provoke them, we will only lose more warriors. Silence filled the ancient chamber. The council members looked at each other. They spoke quietly among themselves. Finally, Rathtak spoke again. Your recommendation has been noted, High Commander. However, the Council sees things differently. The humans may have better technology in some areas, but they lack numbers. They are spread thin across many star systems. If we bring all our forces together and strike at a key target, we can force them to negotiate on our terms. Vex Thor felt his blood turn cold. Council Elder, I must strongly advise against that plan. The humans have shown they can respond to threats almost instantly. Any large gathering of our forces would just give them a bigger target to destroy. Rathtak waved his hand dismissively. Your concerns have been noted, but the Council has made its decision. We will gather a battle fleet of 50 ships. We will strike at the human colony on New Terra. It is one of their main agricultural worlds. The defenses are light. Once we control it, they will have no choice but to negotiate with us. Vexthor wanted to protest more. He wanted to make them understand the danger, but he knew it was useless. The Council had made up their minds. They were blinded by pride and old traditions. They could not accept that the galaxy's power structure had changed, that humanity had upset the old order of things. As you command, Council Elder, Vexthor said. He bowed his head in respect, even though he disagreed completely. He left the chamber knowing that he was being ordered to lead his warriors to certain death. Meanwhile, on board the Thunderhawk, Commander Drake sat in his private office reviewing intelligence reports. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Harper, stood on the other side of his desk. Sir, we are detecting increased Kralthan fleet movements, Harper said. They are gathering ships near the Zeta Frontier region. Drake studied the star charts displayed on his desk screen. How many ships are we talking about? The last count was 47 ships, but more keep arriving every hour. Our intelligence analysts think they are planning something major. Drake understood immediately. New Terra, that is the only valuable target in that region. Harper nodded in agreement. That is what we think too. The colony has very few defenses, just a handful of orbital weapons platforms. They are counting on our fleet response time to protect them. Drake leaned back in his chair, which used to be measured in days before we built the gateway network. The Kralthan are working with outdated information. They think they will have time to take control of the planet before we can respond. Do we have orders yet, sir? Drake tapped his console and opened a secure channel to Fleet Command back on Earth. We will have them soon. Get the crew ready. We are about to send the Kralthan Empire a message they will never forget. 2 days later, the Kralthan battle fleet arrived at New Terra. 50 warships dropped out of warp speed all at the same time in a coordinated attack. Their formation was designed to overwhelm the colony's small defense grid very quickly. High Commander Vexthor watched from the bridge of his flagship as the colony's orbital platforms opened fire. The defense weapons were respectable for a civilian installation, but against 50 warships they stood no chance at all. Begin the attack, Vexthor ordered. His voice was heavy with sadness and reluctance. Target the defense platforms first, then establish orbit around the planet and prepare for ground operations. The Kralthan fleet moved forward. All their weapons fired at once. One by one, the orbital platforms were destroyed. Their shields could not handle the concentrated firepower. It looked like a complete victory was coming. Then space began to tear open. Not just one gateway appeared. 3 gateways opened at the same time. The bright blue and white rifts appeared above the Kralthan fleet, below it, and behind it. They were completely surrounded. From the top gateway came the Thunderhawk. From the bottom gateway emerged another battleship called the Valkyrie. From the gateway behind them came a carrier ship named Olympus. 2 destroyer ships flanked the carrier on both sides. 5 human capital ships had arrived at the same moment. They surrounded the Kralthan fleet from every direction. On the Kralthan flagship bridge, Vexthor stared at the tactical display in complete horror. His worst fears had come true exactly as he had warned the Council. All ships, form defensive positions, he shouted into his communication system. Concentrate all fire on the nearest enemy vessel. But there was nowhere to run. The human ships had them boxed in completely. More gateways were opening in the distance. Fighter squadrons and combat drones poured through by the hundreds. The sky filled with them. Commander Drake's voice came through on all communication frequencies. Kralthan Fleet, this is Commander Drake of the United Earth Coalition. You are surrounded and outgunned. Stand down immediately or you will be destroyed. This is your only warning. Vexthor looked around his bridge. His crew waited for his orders. Their scales had turned pale with fear. He thought about the Council back home. They had been so certain of their superiority. He thought about the thousands of warriors under his command. They were about to die for nothing. Stand down, he said quietly. Power down all weapons. Send them our surrender signal. His second-in-command looked shocked. Commander, we outnumber them 10-1. Vexthor met his officer's gaze steadily. Numbers mean nothing when your enemy can appear anywhere they want with overwhelming force. Look at our sensor readings. Count the fighters. Count the drones. Each one of those human capital ships is more powerful than our entire fleet combined. We are not warriors facing a worthy opponent today. We are helpless prey being led to slaughter. He turned back to face the view screen. The Thunderhawk hung there like an ancient god of war. I will not sacrifice my people for the Council's foolish pride. Stand down now. That is my final order. One by one, the Kralthan ships powered down their weapon systems. The human fleet held their positions. They maintained their perfect encirclement. They were ready to strike instantly if the surrender proved to be a trick. But it was not a trick. The Kralthan had finally learned their lesson. They understood now that humanity was not prey to be hunted. The events at New Terra sent shockwaves through the entire galaxy. 50 Kralthan warships had surrendered without firing a single shot. The images and videos spread across every news network. Every intelligence service analyzed them. Every diplomatic channel discussed what had happened. The message was crystal clear. Humanity was not to be challenged. They had the power to defend themselves, and they would use it without hesitation. In the halls of the Kralthan War Council, emergency meetings ran both day and night. The fleet's surrender had been a shame beyond measure, a dishonor that could not be easily forgotten. Rathtuck and 2 other council members were removed from their positions immediately. Their families were stripped of all rank and honor as punishment. A new council was formed. It was led by younger members who understood that the galaxy had changed. Their first action was to summon High Commander Vexthor. He entered the council chamber expecting to be punished for the surrender. Instead, he was greeted with respect and understanding. High Commander, the new council leader named Kethrall said, "You saved the lives of 50 ship crews and thousands of warriors by surrendering at New Terra. Some members of our society call it cowardice. We call it wisdom." Vexthor bowed his head respectfully. "I only did what any good commander should do. I protected my people from dying for no reason." Exactly right. The old council refused to see the truth. They led us to the edge of a war we could never win. That ends now. High Commander, you are hereby promoted to Supreme Commander of all Kralthan military forces. Your first task is to open peace negotiations with the humans. Vexthor felt a heavy weight lift from his shoulders. "It will be done, Council Leader. Thank you for your trust in me." 3 weeks later, Vexthor found himself on board a human diplomatic station. He was waiting in a conference room that was surprisingly comfortable. The humans had made an effort to adjust the environment for Kralthan needs. They had changed the temperature and humidity to match his homeworld. The door opened. Commander Drake entered. He was wearing a formal diplomatic uniform instead of his combat gear. With him was Ambassador Helen Cruz. She was the senior human representative for diplomatic affairs. "Supreme Commander Vexthor," Cruz said. She extended her hand in the human greeting gesture. "Thank you for coming to meet with us." Vexthor accepted the handshake. He had studied human customs carefully before this meeting. "Ambassador Cruz, Commander Drake, I have come seeking peace between our 2 peoples." "That is what we want as well," Cruz said. She pointed to seats around a circular table. "Please sit down. We have much to discuss." They spent the next hour talking about terms for peace. The conversation was honest and sometimes difficult, but it was always respectful. Vexthor explained the Kralthan perspective. His people had been the dominant power in this region of space for many centuries. Humanity's sudden rise had challenged everything the Kralthan understood about the galaxy. Cruz listened with care. "I understand your position, Supreme Commander, but you must understand ours as well. Humanity did not come to the stars looking to conquer anyone. We came looking for a future. We came looking for new worlds to call home. When your raiders attacked our ships and killed our people, you forced us to defend ourselves." "I know this," Vexthor said quietly, "and I feel shame for what my people have done. The old ways of thinking, the belief that strength means you should dominate others, that weaker species exist only to be exploited, those beliefs almost destroyed us completely. We want to change now." Drake leaned forward across the table. "How can we be sure of that?" "Words are easy to say. Actions are what truly matter." Vexthor nodded. You are right to question us, which is why I propose this plan. The Kralthan Empire will withdraw all our military forces from the disputed sectors of space. We will stop all hostile actions against human ships and colonies completely. In exchange, we ask for technology sharing agreements and trade partnerships. Cruz and Drake looked at each other with surprise. You want access to our technology? Not your weapons technology, Vexthor explained quickly. We want your medical technology, your agricultural methods, your environmental restoration techniques. The Kralthan homeworld is dying, Ambassador. Our traditional methods of extracting resources have poisoned our own planet. We need help to save our world before it is too late. This information shocked both humans. Cruz sat back in her chair to think about it. You are asking us to help save your people? Yes. We have nothing to offer you in return except our word that we will never threaten humanity again. I know that may not seem like much to you, but it is all we have to give. The room became silent. Cruz looked at Drake. He gave her a small nod of agreement. Supreme Commander, Cruz said, humanity did not come to the stars to become tyrants. We came to build something better than what we left behind on Earth. If the Kralthan Empire is truly willing to stop its aggressive expansion and work with us in good faith, then we will help you save your world. Vexthor felt something he had not experienced in many years. He felt hope. You would really do this? After everything we have done to you? We would, Cruz said with firm conviction. But you must understand this clearly. Trust must be earned over time. We will start small with environmental restoration projects. If that goes well, we can expand the partnership. But any return to hostile actions, any betrayal of this agreement and the consequences will be very severe. Drake added his own warning. The Quantum Gateway Network is not just a military tool. It is a promise. Touch any human colony, attack any human ship, and we will be there within minutes. Not hours. Not days. Minutes. And the next time we arrive, we will not be offering you surrender terms. Vexthor met both their gazes without looking away. I understand completely. You have my personal word, and the word of the new Kralthan Council that we will honor this agreement. No more raids. No more attacks. We will work to earn your trust. Cruz extended her hand again across the table. Then we have reached an agreement. Vexthor shook her hand. He could feel the weight of history in that simple gesture. Two species that had been on the very edge of war were now becoming partners in peace. News of the peace agreement spread across the galaxy very quickly. Other intelligent species took notice of what had happened. The Kralthan Empire, which had terrorized so many civilizations for so long, had been humbled without a single major battle being fought. The humans had shown overwhelming power. Then they had chosen mercy over conquest. This changed everything in galactic politics. Within just a few months, other species began reaching out to the United Earth Coalition. They did not come as conquered subjects or defeated enemies. They came as potential allies and trading partners. The Viridian Federation made contact. So did the Aquilan Concordat. The Silicon Collective sent diplomatic representatives. All of them sought trade agreements and mutual defense pacts with humanity. Humanity found itself at the center of a completely new galactic order. This had not happened through conquest or military domination. It had happened through demonstrated strength that was tempered by wise restraint. On New Terra, life had returned to normal patterns. The attempted invasion had lasted only a few minutes. The colony had suffered no serious damage at all. Captain Jake Morrison had been invited to attend a ceremony honoring all the defenders, but he kept insisting that he had done nothing special except press a button. Sometimes pressing the right button at exactly the right time is all it takes. Commander Drake told him at the reception after the ceremony. You trusted the emergency system. You followed your training and protocols. You saved many lives by doing that. Those actions are worth honoring. Jake smiled at the compliment. I just did what any captain would do in that situation. But I have to admit that quantum beacon device is very impressive. How does it actually work? Drake's expression became mysterious and guarded. That information is classified at the highest levels. Let me just say that humanity learned some very interesting things about quantum entanglement and spatial manipulation. The Gateway Network is the result of decades of research and development. It is our ace in the hole. Well, it certainly made a strong impression on the Kralthan Empire. That was exactly the idea. Peace through strength. We do not want to fight wars, but we are completely ready to fight if it becomes necessary, and we can project that readiness anywhere we need to. Instantly, that changes the entire strategic picture for any potential enemy. Lieutenant Sophie Grant joined their conversation. She was carrying a drink. Captain Commander, I could not help but hear what you were saying. Is it really true that we are going to be working with the Kralton now? It is completely true, Drake confirmed. In fact, the Meridian has been selected to carry the first joint human-Kralton diplomatic mission. You will be transporting a team of environmental scientists to their homeworld to begin the restoration work. Jake and Sophie looked at each other with surprise. Our ship? Why did they choose us? Because you were there at the very beginning of this whole situation. You saw what the Kralton are capable of at their worst, and now you will help show them what humanity is capable of at our best. It is symbolic, and symbols carry great weight in diplomatic matters. 6 months had passed since the incident at New Terra. The Kralton homeworld looked very different now. Human environmental teams had arrived with advanced terraforming equipment. They worked side by side with Kralton scientists to reverse centuries of ecological damage that had been done to the planet. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood on a high cliff overlooking the primary restoration site. Where once there had been nothing but toxic wasteland, now small green shoots were beginning to push up through the soil. The humans had brought in special nanobots that broke down dangerous pollutants at the molecular level. Large atmospheric processors cleaned the poisoned air day and night. Dr. Kyle Bennett was the lead human scientist for the project. He walked up to Vexthor carrying a datapad full of information. Supreme Commander, I thought you would want to see the latest readings. The toxicity levels have dropped by 40% in this sector alone. Vexthor studied the data display with growing amazement. In just 6 months, you have accomplished what we could not do in decades of trying. How is this possible? Bennett smiled warmly. It is not magic. Just good science. We had very similar problems on Earth before we developed these technologies. The key is working with nature instead of fighting against it. Your world has incredible natural resilience built into it. It just needed help to unlock that potential. A young Kralton scientist approached them both. He was one of the local scientists working alongside the human team. Supreme Commander Dr. Bennett, we have detected movement in the underground water system. The water table level is rising. That is excellent news, Bennett said with enthusiasm. Water is the foundation of all life. Once we get the underground water systems flowing properly again, plant life will spread naturally on its own. Give it just a few years, and this entire region will be covered in green vegetation. Vexthor looked toward the distant horizon. Similar restoration projects were happening all across the planet. Dr. Bennett, I must ask you something. Why are you doing all of this? After everything the Kralton people did to your species, you could have simply destroyed us completely. Instead, you are saving us and our world. I do not fully understand why. Bennett was quiet for a moment as he thought about how to answer. Supreme Commander, humanity almost destroyed itself several times before we reached the stars. We fought terrible wars. We polluted our own planet badly. We faced climate disasters. We have made every possible mistake in the book. We learned the very hard way that survival is not about being the strongest or the most aggressive. Real survival is about cooperation and adaptation. It is about knowing when to extend a helping hand instead of making a fist. He pointed toward the restoration site below them. We help you because we remember what it feels like to need help ourselves. We believe the galaxy is better with many different species than with just one kind, and we have learned through experience that former enemies can become valuable allies and friends. Vexthor nodded slowly with understanding. Your species has great wisdom to go along with your great power. That is a very rare combination to find. We have had good teachers along the way, Bennett said with a modest smile. Humanity did not learn everything on its own. We had help from others, even if we did not always recognize it at the time. Meanwhile, up in orbit above the Kralton homeworld, Captain Jake Morrison watched the restoration efforts from the bridge of the Meridian. His cargo ship had become a regular visitor to this system. He transported supplies and personnel back and forth for the joint restoration effort. Sophie walked up to him carrying a message tablet. Captain, we have received a transmission from Earth. Ambassador Cruz wants to speak with you directly. Jake took the tablet and opened the message file. Cruz's face appeared on the small screen. She was smiling warmly at the camera. Captain Morrison, I hope this message finds you well and healthy. I wanted to inform you personally that the United Earth Coalition has officially recognized the Kralthan Empire as a full diplomatic partner. Major trade agreements have been signed between our governments. We are establishing permanent embassies on both Earth and on the Kralthan homeworld. Jake felt a surge of pride run through him. They had come such a long way from that desperate moment in the Epsilon Belt, when death seemed certain. Cruz continued with her message. Additionally, the Kralthan have proposed conducting a joint military exercise with our forces. This is not meant to threaten anyone. It is meant to demonstrate the strength of our new alliance to the rest of the galaxy. Supreme Commander Vexthor has specifically requested that you be present as an official observer. This is because of your important role in starting this entire relationship between our peoples. Sophie grinned at him playfully. You are famous now, Captain. You are the man who pressed the button that changed galactic history. Jake laughed at the description. I just hope I do not have to press any more emergency buttons. I would much prefer to go back to boring cargo runs from now on. It is too late for that now, Sophie said with a knowing look. You are part of something much bigger than cargo runs. 3 weeks later, the joint military exercise took place in neutral space far from any inhabited systems. The Thunderhawk and 4 other human capital ships operated alongside a dozen Kralthan vessels. They ran coordinated drills and practiced simulated combat scenarios together. Representatives from a dozen other species watched everything from special observation platforms. They witnessed former enemies now working together with practiced efficiency and coordination. Commander Drake stood on the bridge of the Thunderhawk. He was coordinating directly with Vexthor aboard the Kralthan flagship through an open communication channel. Human forces are advancing to Sector Gamma, Drake reported in a professional tone. Kralthan Wing 3, please take the flanking position on the left side. Understood completely, Commander, Vexthor replied quickly. We are moving into position right now. The military exercise continued for several hours. It showcased not just raw military power but also coordination, trust, and effective communication between 2 very different species. By the time the exercise ended, even the most skeptical observers had to admit that the human-Kralthan alliance was genuine and strong. After the exercise concluded successfully, Drake and Vexthor met in person aboard a neutral diplomatic station. They held a major press conference together. Media representatives from species all across the galaxy crowded into the large room. Everyone was eager to document this historic moment. A journalist from the Viridian Federation raised one of its tentacles to ask a question. Commander Drake, Supreme Commander Vexthor, your 2 species were at war with each other just months ago. How did you achieve this remarkable transformation so quickly? Drake gestured for Vexthor to answer the question first. The transformation began with complete honesty, Vexthor said clearly. The Kralthan Empire was wrong in what we did. We attacked innocent civilian people. We sought to dominate other species rather than cooperate with them. When humanity responded with overwhelming force, we faced a critical choice. We could continue fighting a war we could never win, or we could admit our mistakes and seek a better path forward. He looked directly at Drake with respect. The humans could have destroyed our entire species. They had the military power to do it. They had the justification after what we did to them. Instead, they offered us partnership and help. That single act of mercy has changed the Kralthan people in fundamental ways. We are learning now that true strength is not just about weapons and conquest. Real strength includes compassion, cooperation, and the wisdom to know when violence is not necessary. Drake nodded his agreement. Humanity has learned very hard lessons about the terrible cost of endless conflict. We nearly destroyed ourselves completely before we reached the stars. When we first encountered the Kralthan, we had to make an important decision about what kind of spacefaring civilization we wanted to become. We could be conquerors who took everything by force, or we could be builders who created something better. We chose to be builders. He paused to choose his next words very carefully, but make no mistake about our intentions. Our choice of peace does not come from any weakness. The Quantum Gateway Network gives us the ability to project overwhelming military power anywhere in this entire sector within just minutes. Any species that threatens humanity or threatens our allies will face an immediate and devastating response. We will defend ourselves and our friends without any hesitation at all. An Aquilan reporter spoke up next. So humanity's core message to the galaxy is peace through strength? Drake thought about the question carefully. Not exactly. Our message is actually peace through mutual respect. We respect the right of other species to exist, to grow and thrive, to chart their own course through the stars. We ask only for that same respect in return. Those species who give us that respect will find that humanity is a loyal and generous ally. Those who refuse to respect us will discover exactly why we survived the violent and dangerous history of Earth to emerge as a successful spacefaring civilization. Vex Thor added his own perspective. The entire galaxy is changing right now. The old ways of thinking where the strong simply dominated the weak without question, those ways are coming to an end.